Are you ready?
Bryce looks towards the end zone.
One punt, his own blocker.
His own guy got it.
His own blocker was too deep.
Think you can tell us what to do?
Welcome to the College Football X.
Break it down!
Welcome to the X, the College Football X, featuring us, the online sports guys, talking about the week that was and the week that is in college football. So much going on as we are now deeply into the season. With me, as always, OSG Wilkie, OSG Nelson, Brother Marty, Brother J-Dub, again on assignment this week. Hopefully we'll have him here popping up sometime within the next couple weeks.
Have him in the center of the screen like Hollywood Squares. We'll put him like right there, put him like right there and have him. He'll have to do his best he'll do his best Paul Lind impression.
That's
I can
asking
take
a
a little
lot.
free frame image of him and drop him in over there if you really want it.
That'd be pretty funny.
For those of you watching on the YouTube channel, that is. But if you're not watching that, you're listening to the podcast, audio podcast, and means you just have to use your imagination for whatever that's worth. Guys, we already are a full, well, counting week 0, I guess we're in the second week, but this is the first big week where everybody played, and there were some absolutely bananas games.
Check.
There's a part of me that wants to start with the big boys just because they're the big boys, but there's too many crazy games to even that say that was the highlight of the weekend. I mean, to me, the highlight of the weekend was watching that North Carolina Appalachian State crazy offensive-a-thon.
Okay, so let me ask you guys this. Is this going to be the shortest tenure of a new defensive coordinator in Division I this year?
No.
Because how can you give up 40 in the fourth quarter and survive and have to survive this kind of stuff for consecutive weeks?
Nobody gets fired after the first week.
Oh, man.
Hey, it's the anniversary of Michigan letting App State do that to them, too.
Ooh.
Same weekend.
Man, that's right. Wow.
That's the craziest fourth quarter of football I think I have ever seen. Wilkie, did you get to see any of that?
You talking about App and Wake and North Carolina?
App in North Carolina.
Yeah. To me, it was App State's Super Bowl. You had the in-state school that gets all the notoriety coming to Boone for the first time. And you see what happens. I mean, they played the game of their lives. Carolina was playing scared, if you ask me, and they got it done.
How'd you like to be the kid that dropped that 2-point conversion pass that would have tied the game at the very end?
Yeah, it's tough.
Mm.
But this is the program that beat Michigan at the Big House. I think this win would have been bigger than that.
Oh, yeah. Especially to come back the way they did. And what's even crazier is after the kid dropped the 2-point conversion pass, which would have made it a tie game, North Carolina scores with just seconds left on the clock, and Appalachian State goes like 3 plays and scores again.
Well, because you had a personal foul call on a dead ball, which meant you kicked it off from the 20, and the return took it basically to midfield. So Chase Bryce, who I want to say is like a 38th year senior at Appalachian State now.
Super duper senior.
He is a super duper senior. 361 in this game, but you gotta have a talk. You gotta have a talk this week about discipline. You can't give the opponent that kind of an opportunity to where they have like 30 seconds and they only have 50 yards to go because one pass for 26 gave them the score that pretty much locked the game the way it did late in the fourth quarter. It was crazy, but North Carolina had so many mental errors in this, and especially in the fourth quarter. I think, Wilkie, you're right. I think they were playing scared. It was just yikes, man. All the credit in the world to App State and Chase Bryce is a super duper senior.
I mean, from there, though, we can kind of bounce into some of the other games that were a little bit more expected. Alabama, Georgia, 2 of the top 3 teams going into the season. They took care of business. No real surprises there. They did what they were supposed to do. I didn't see Alabama play, but I saw a good chunk of the Georgia game, and they didn't seem to have any problem at all with Oregon.
No. Marty, what do you think about the Pac-12 in general? Exactly.
Even keel with the Big 12.
Not wrong.
Or the
It's
ACT.
See, but that's scary when you say, but when you introduce the American into this, it's like, yeah, what's the Pac-12? Oh, they're like the American. That's not the kind of comparison you want coming out of the blocks. Right now, you're like the fifth. You're the fifth of the Power Fives, and the American is working on the outside. They're not even in lane 8 right now. And they're trying to pass you right now.
Yeah, but they're getting people to their games. You see the UCLA crowd. They announced 27. I'm like, they might have sold 27 or had that many as season ticket holders. But I mean, it looked like there's probably 8,000 people in the stands.
They moved the decimal point over a space.
Yeah, the other 19,000 came dressed as empty seats.
Or the tarps they had in the end zones.
Yes, maybe they counted the seats covered by tarps and people were actually like in the concourse watching or something. I mean, the Pac-12 is in a world of hurt. Guilty as charged. I watched Wazoo and Idaho for Pac-12 After Dark, and it was better than Washington and Kent, and it was better than Oregon State and Boise. And what's that saying?
It says you have too much time in your hands.
Or you're a Pac-12 fool.
Oh, well, I mean, it's also late at night, and I wanted to just have something live going on. I wasn't looking for recap shows yet, and so that was the closest game in Pac-12 After Dark. Idaho and Washington State. It was a one-possession game. That's how desperate I was to watch stuff. I didn't quite get to the Hawaii Western Kentucky game, but yeah, one-possession game. That's where I was late on Saturday.
You're saying Ohio State and Notre Dame wasn't enough for you last night?
That's a Marty question more than it is for me.
At least they proved that they can move the ball when they've got to move the ball. The line looked a lot better on that than what they were doing last year.
Absolutely true.
That was a good old-fashioned, to quote Jim Ross, slobber knocker.
It was.
I got to say, Notre Dame put up a nice battle.
Oh, God, yeah.
They're going to be a good team this year and something to be reckoned with. Marcus Freeman's a good head coach. I love that selection as a head coach. And Ohio State won a game in a way that they haven't had to win a game in some time.
That defensive tackle Hall, my God, what a game! They were talking to Johnson about, he mentioned that he's got one alpha dog that's ready to come out and establish himself, and but he wouldn't say who it was. And like after the game, everybody's like, "Oh, Hall,
that one,
that guy.
Oh yeah, that young kid, the one throwing everybody around."
Oh my God. Yeah,
and that was a really good test for them. I think that might help them over the course of the season a lot because they're ready for a grinded out game where almost everybody else had blowout cities.
Yeah, 2 receivers down, and they still keep it going.
Any other games that jumped off the board for you, Wilgie?
Well, obviously Pitt and West Virginia stood out for me on Thursday night because what a great back and forth game. You had the storyline of 2 former Southern Cal quarterbacks that have landed at schools where they can give one more shot to the NFL scouts. Back and forth game, a pick 6 by Pitt, taking advantage of that.
Don't half the teams in the college football playoff hunt, roughly 50% of all the teams have a former USC quarterback at the helm now?
You would think so.
Or a quarterback, yes.
But the thing that I was impressed with is just what a great game it was. We need to see more of the backyard brawl if we're going to get games like that, because it's been 13 years since they had met. But then Pat Narduzzi live on SportsCenter with Scott Van Pelt calling out ESPN for saying that 75% of the crowd at Heinz Field was going to be from West Virginia. That wasn't the case. I mean, it was a full throat Pitt crowd there with quite a bit of West Virginia there as well. And then he did it again in the presser. calling out ESPN. So that's the kind of guy Pat Narduzzi is. I mean, he has his emotions on the sleeve. And the other game was Utah and Florida. A battle of two really good quarterbacks. Yeah, well, yeah, and there's a tendency to think that the SEC teams are a little more physical than the Pac-12 team, and it wasn't the case in this one. Utah was
watched a little bit of
much
that
more physical, which why I really like the Utes in that league. But it really came down to making plays, and Florida made the plays that count. Great game. Nothing. Don't take anything away from Utah. I mean, they went down to the swamp and gave it all they had. Florida just was able, with their new young players, and there were some really impressive young players that the Gators have.
Yeah,
And you guys know how I feel about Billy Napier.
Yeah, it took a superhero effort from Anthony Richardson to get
Anthony
them.
Richardson, yeah.
Those are kind of the big games of the week that we'll go through here. We went through here pretty quickly. I mean, most of the other games are what they are. When we come back in this next block, we're going to talk about some news that might have actually eclipsed the game this week, and that's some changes coming to the college football playoff system. We'll talk about that, what it means, and how it's going to impact the world of college football over the next few years when we come back right after this.
Warning. Orthopedic surgeons are seeing an increase in overuse injuries when young athletes perform the same repetitive stressful motions over and over. Pitching, tennis, weight training, even long swimming workouts can cause overuse trauma that may require surgery. If your kids play and train hard, visit orthoinfo.org or stopsportsinjuries.org. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and the American Orthopedic Society for Sports Medicine.
Thanks for sticking around, everybody. We're back for another round here. This time, the topic of conversation is the college football playoff. If you follow the game and you know what's going on, you know that the College Football Playoff Committee decided this week we're going to go ahead and add some more teams and make it more like a playoff tournament. We're talking about 12 teams making it to the playoff. Bunch of first-round games on home campuses, then some bowl games involved for the next couple of rounds.
Huge.
Guys, do you like this? I guess the short version is, what do you think this means for the game itself first, before we start kind of narrowing it down?
Hit it, Marty.
Having it on a campus, like finally getting an SEC school to play in the snow and real football weather. I don't know if whoever's making the pairings is going to let that happen, but the opportunity to see them have to come up to Ohio State, come up to the shoe, Indiana, Penn State, love to see them play in the cold weather.
Oh, Kentucky plays in the cold weather.
It's a market difference.
But you're assuming Kentucky's going to be one of those 12 in one of these seasons. I know Mark Stoops would love to hear you say that.
Yeah.
But
after his battle with Calipari, sure.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm looking at. I like the idea. It took too damn long to get to this particular point, and we all knew it was going to happen. I just want to know how it's going to integrate into TV contracts, and then from there, that the TV contract for this expanded playoff is going to cost a metric crap load of dollars for whomever wants to pick up this contract. If the four-letter is serious about keeping the CFP, they're going to have to fork over $11 billion to make sure that they keep it. It opens up an opportunity.
Show me the money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But what it also does is it opens up opportunities for those other streaming services like Amazon Prime, who now has Thursday Night Football on the NFL side. I think you could get some really interesting dance partners who want to come in and bid for these and really drive up the revenue that's associated with these contracts, because you've got Apple TV Plus getting involved in sports now. You've got Prime involved in Thursday Night Football. You've got the four-letter that wants to try to keep what they have. It's going to be one of the intense bidding processes I think we've ever seen.
I don't think the four-letter can lay off any more people in order to buy it, though.
True.
Yeah, but Disney also has more money than God. It's just a matter of whether they want to spend it or not.
It's going to be something what CBS has with Turner with the NCAA tournaments. What it's going to be, it's going to be a partnership deal, whether it's cable or streaming. Yeah, I mean, it's going to cost a lot of money. The ratings have been okay. I thought they would be higher, but when you have the same four teams in it every year, and they're all from the same region, it's kind of hard to maintain a national audience. I think that's going to be to me, that's the big reason why they expanded to 12. It was just becoming too regional. It's Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, and Oklahoma every year. It seemed like that was in the.
Oh,
You might as well call it the
first round for Oklahoma.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the big reason why they expanded. What I like about it is playing the first round on neutral sites. And this is something I think they really need to consider, even the quarters and semis, because the fans just can't make that kind of commitment, a 4-week commitment to go to a neutral site game every time. There's going to have to be some concessions of playing these games on campus facilities because, home field advantage, that's part of it. You're going to have to realize that's part of the process of if you want to keep the regular season somewhat relevant. I understand they're going to take conference champions, 6 of them, but you're also going to take 6 at-larges. So keep another element of the regular season. Keep it relevant as best you can. I know they want to keep the bowl system alive, and this is the way they can do it. I just think it's flatlined, to be honest with you.
Here's another question for the floor, and I'll let you guys answer it as you will. Is this the lifeline that college football needed to keep it from becoming basically 2 super conferences with the Big Ten and the SEC? Because all of a sudden, instead of just narrowing everything down, we go back wide open again, and it gives your Pac-12s and your Big 12s, and even to a lesser extent the ACC or the AC, opportunities to get teams into the playoff at the very least and be able to cash in a little bit on this.
What do you think, Marty?
I think that might have been the impetus to get it through, because they've been sitting on that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might have been the nudge that we need to keep these other conferences alive, or we're going to end up with 3 Division I divisions.
I still think we're headed to the galactic mega realignment where it's the Northern Conference and the Southern Conference brought to you by 2 TV networks. And I think that I guess I'm the patented pessimist on the panel. Say that 11 times fast. A lot of alliteration from anxious anchors placed in powerful post, but I still think we're heading to 20-team super conferences by the time that we're done discussing this kind of a thing. But yeah, I think you want to continue to present the illusion, Wilkie, that you still want to have 6 conference champions in whatever form it's going to look like.
I see that point. I see where they want to keep the other conferences relevant and kind of stop the bleeding of teams, stop the USC and UCLAs that go to a region, the conference that's not nowhere near the region. I see that. I'm thinking about the college football fan here.
Yeah.
And obviously you want your team to have a shot at a national championship. And Phil, you've brought that up many times in your alma mater, who went from a division where they won national championships and went to the next level, and they've got no shot. As much as we love the Sun Belt, this is probably going to help that league get a team into that playoff. The other thing I keep thinking about too is, and this has been an argument I've heard with college football for so long when they brought up these playoffs. They always compare it to the NCAA tournament in the Cinderella aspect. And I'm sorry, you can expand it to 12, you can expand it to 32. There's no way you can have a Cinderella aspect in this because teams just don't have the talent and the interior lines and the size. They just don't make big boys like that as much as they make the speed guys. So or skill guys. So I think that's another thing they're trying to manufacture in the playoff is let's have a story like Cincinnati last year. That was the most compelling story of last year's playoff because you finally got a group of 5 team into the playoff. And we were all kind of excited to see how they're going to do against Alabama. And it was pretty obvious how they were going to do against Alabama. Alabama's got bigger guys up front than Cincinnati, and Cincinnati plays the same type of system where they can rely on those interior linemen. So those are some thoughts I have about the playoff. Yeah, I think it's good for college football, but for how long?
Until the next round of TV contracts.
Yeah,
maybe.
Exactly.
I kind of agree a little bit with where Wilkie was going with that too, because you're talking about it. If you're talking about a Cinderella scenario, you're talking about, like, say, for example,
Boise and Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl.
not even that. You're talking about, like, maybe a Michigan getting matched up with a Georgia again in the playoff, and Michigan pulling an upset in the playoff.
Not happening, yeah.
But it's a more likely scenario than we're talking about Appalachian State coming out of the Sun Belt and beating Georgia in the playoff.
No question.
and that's what you get. You get a 12-1. Well, obviously you get the play-in games, but you get an 8-1.
You get a 5-12, and then you go 5-12, 6-11, 7-10, 8-9. Those winners play 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, but the likelihood of us getting somebody like a Butler in the NCAA who comes out and is basically a small school in Indianapolis that comes in and all of a sudden wins the tournament or plays in the Final Four, that's not going to happen here.
Yeah, they're just not going to. They might pull out a squeaker in the first round, but they're not going to have the depth for as banged up as they're going to be after a close fight like that. Because you can barely get through the game.
Yeah,
like what Cincinnati had is they didn't have the depth when you couldn't rotate enough second tier guys that were talented enough to do what the first tier guys were doing, and the depth is.
Especially if they're going to play these in week increments.
Right.
Because if you're playing Saturday, I mean, for a team like a Georgia Southern or a Sun Belt team, they're just not going to have the time to recover. And
you can only spend so much time in the cold tub.
Yeah, you can scheme all you want, you can trick play all you want, but if you got guys that have just got the hell beat out of them, and you got the win, it's going to be hard to recover.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it makes for some interesting scenarios, and at least in the short term, I'm glad they did it.
Oh, for sure.
It was a necessary move, having those 4 teams play. And the other question, I guess, really to the floor is we don't know when this is going to be implemented at this point. It could be implemented not this season, but next season, 2023, or it could be held. There are some reports and some coaches who said, I don't want to see it before 2026.
Yeah, and Greg Sankey came out and said it's not going to happen anytime between now and 2026. So that seems to be the ideal time. The other thing I thought of too, what happens if you got the Heisman Trophy winner as your quarterback and he goes down with a knee injury and you miss him for the rest in the first or second round if they have a bye? That's another aspect of this too, is the injury factor. Yeah. And that could happen on the favorites. Just something to think about.
That happens in the NCAA basketball tournament, and that's why you're seeing a lot of kids that don't play in bowl games anymore. Same exact reason.
Yep.
They don't want to run the risk of getting hurt. Do I think it would impact? Do I think you'll see guys bailing out of the college football playoff tournament because of the injury risk? No.
Well, to improve their stock if it's not going to improve their stock in the draft or when they go to the combine.
It could, if you're the guy who leads it. If you're the guy who leads your team to a national championship, yeah, I think it could improve your stock.
No, I'm talking about if your stock is there and scouts have told you there's not much more you can do. I mean, it'd be mighty tempting if the combine's coming up into February, early March. Yeah, I'm playing for a championship, but
what value is it for me when I have my pro career on the line?
What level should I play out on the field? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you can make that you could, in theory, make that argument about game number 8 too.
Well, you're going to see a lot of guys, I think, running out of bounds.
Mm-hmm. See, Franco Harris is a Seattle Seahawk. You get a lot of that.
Yeah, I still think it's a little bit of a different beast when you're playing for the shot at a national title as opposed to playing in a bowl game that's largely meaningless.
Yeah.
That title does still mean something, and for a lot of kids, I think that's still the reason that they're there in college. It's not for everybody. Some of them there to pocket. I'm not naive enough to say that some of them aren't there just to pocket money. They are. But I think for a lot of them, it also means just as much, if not more, to be able to say that you either fought for, competed for, or won a national championship game.
Yeah, I mean, but I look at it. I look at it as I'm not a businessman. I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman, and you still are gonna have those athletes, Marty, that are going to sit there and go, I'm getting folks whispering in my ear and getting this kind of intel, good or bad. You're still going to have those folks whispering. They're going to go, nope, you don't want to damage your future, and you're going to have some folks who are going to duck out in these situations when it's just a fact of life, I think.
And you got to worry about, the other side of it is, are some scouts going to question your heart if you dip out on your team after you're that far away from what your team goal is?
Yep.
Because that's bit some other people, some people, they don't mention it at all. Other players, they just said, question his heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's a legitimate question, and one of the things that I was kind of getting at there. Guys, why don't we go ahead and go towards the halftime break here? We've made it through halfway through the show. For those of you listening at home, this is the X, College Football X. We are the online sports guys. Stick around. When we come back, we'll look ahead a little bit to next week's games and a couple other odds and ends going on in the world of college football. All that and more when we return to the College Football X on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
It may not require a textbook, but it's filled with valuable lessons. It may not take place in a classroom, but it's an ideal environment for learning. It may not involve a diploma, but it can help prepare Georgia's young people for life. It's high school sports. High school sports can play a critical role in a student's overall education. In fact, studies show that students that participate in high school sports are more likely to enjoy greater levels of achievement in their academic lives. If you think high school sports are only about competition, think again. Better yet, think about attending a high school sporting event in your community. You'll be amazed by what you see. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Hey, congratulations. You made it to the second half of the show. This is the College Football X on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network. We are talking college football. First half of the show, we hit on some of the games from this past weekend. Second quarter was a little bit about the college football playoff for the big news of the week. Now that we're in the third quarter, guys, let's take a look ahead. And we've got some interesting matchups here as we go into week number 2. And ironically, the first game on the board next Saturday, September 10th, is probably one of the more interesting ones we're going to see all season long. And that's the Alabama Crimson Tide taking a trip to Austin, Texas to take on the Longhorns. Yeah?
Texas is back. They're going to be on it.
Texas is back. Oh,
Texas is back, gone?
Well, Ewers got picked off on his first pass this past week.
That's a way to celebrate.
He's going to have a couple more that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be a case where a former Saban assistant is not going to win.
No.
The 2-game win streak is over.
So Texas won't be back, is what you're saying?
Oh, they'll be on their backs.
Let's just say the eyes.
I should start selling that T-shirt now.
Yes.
Let's just say the eyes of Texas will be blackened.
The eyes of Texas will be skyward. See,
I
easy
like the
there.
SMU t-shirts with the pony legs up.
You know, I actually had one of those T-shirts.
oh,
Oh,
That SMU football 87 with the pony on its back with its legs up.
oh,
A friend of mine went to SMU and got it for me.
Nice.
don't say it too loud. My wife hears that. You're gonna have some trouble.
yeah.
She's alum.
I have to mention this game in part because we talked about the North Carolina Tar Heels in the beginning of the show, but they travel to Atlanta to take on Georgia State, who gave South Carolina some fits last week. Could we see a repeat performance?
Yeah, I mean, and this is early lines started at 7, and
Really?
North Carolina has actually gone up to a 10 in some places. Give me Georgia State and take the over. Georgia State to cover and the over. North Carolina's defense is chaos right now. That only works if you're Jeff Goldblum in the Jurassic Park series.
Did they join the Big 12 or something?
Yeah, probably. They probably could at this rate.
I'm just intrigued that Carolina is playing back-to-back road games in the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
Obviously, coming to Atlanta makes somewhat sense because you want to, that's a place to recruit players out of. Going to Boone, wasn't so sure if there was anything to gain there, but it kind of surprises me. It all depends on what adjustments they make on Carolina's defense. I still think they're going to win, and so I'm going with the Tar Heels.
Here's a good one for you. Actually, a game that could be a very even matchup. Tennessee Volunteers take a trip up to Pittsburgh to take on the Panthers.
Ooh.
That could be a very intriguing game on Saturday afternoon.
Well, as physical as Pitt played on Thursday night, I think Tennessee is going to have their eyes opened quite a bit. And I like how Keaton Slovis is fitting in that offensive system. And, Pitt again has bruising running backs. They're going to run through you. It may not run past you very far, but they're going to run through you. So I'm going to go with Pitt in a mild upset.
Well, Tennessee started at 3 and minus 110 on the money line. You can get Tennessee as much as 6.5 point favorite right now.
Is that the SEC reputation talking, or you?
Oh, I'm sure it is. And so, I mean, but the thing is that right now the juice box purveyors are so undecided. You can get 3, you can get 4, you can get 4.5, 5.5, or 6.5 right now, depending on who your favorite conversations are with.
I'd take Pitt too.
They don't know. Take Pitt.
I'd definitely take Pitt.
I'm bringing this one up because it's the alma mater and it kind of intrigues me a little bit, but my Georgia Southern Eagles are taking the trip out to Lincoln, Nebraska to take on the Cornhuskers. A game ordinarily I would say, oh, no way, but Southern put up 56 points like that.
It was Morgan State, sir. It was Morgan State.
True. But it's a different Georgia Southern team in the years past, not running that A-bone offense. They threw the ball. They were in that hurry-up, fast-pace, no-stop offense.
Yeah.
Could that give Nebraska some fits?
Absolutely. Georgia Southern 21-point dog.
Nebraska's reeling too. Jeez.
Yeah.
They struggled against North Dakota.
And Georgia Southern to step up from I gotta be honest. As much as I hate to give Georgia Southern any props as a Youngstown State grad, but Nebraska's reeling. Frost isn't going to make it through the season. He has the adjusted buyout, right? That's like partway through the season. He's not making it a game past that.
If we can keep it within 7 points at the end of the game, I like our chances.
Like I said, dude, you're a 21-point dog. I'd run with that all day.
I mean, they're already turtling, and it's Sunday. They haven't played anybody good.
The only other game on the board featuring 2 ranked teams right now, believe it or not, this entire coming up week is Baylor at BYU.
Yeah, I watched a little BYU South Florida, and the Cougars again, they have an offense that can move, and
Yeah.
they're very physical. Their lines are both offense and defense lines are very physical. So I tend to like Baylor BYU in this game because of that. So although Baylor's kind of a mystery to me. I love what Dave Aranda's doing there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a way to spring them forward for a little bit this year, but I tend to like BYU because they got 30-year-old players on that team.
BYU's a 2.5-point favorite, so basically the juice box guys think it's a push.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of sounds about right.
Well, according to Desmond Howard, Baylor's a playoff team.
Go with
what
that
he was
with what you
smoking.
want.
That means so much, Marty.
Stop.
So much. Anything you guys see on the board that looks kind of intriguing for you? Matchups for people to be on the lookout for this coming week? And I know there are a lot of cupcake games.
So basically, Tarleton and TCU is not on the list. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that. Oh, here's one. We talked about North Carolina a little earlier. Appalachian State goes to College Station to square off with Texas, a very young and inexperienced Texas A&M team.
Oh boy. Yikes.
Anybody want to put some thoughts up on that one?
Yeah, here's my thought. Yikes.
You think it'll be a boat race?
Oh, you know that the quitter isn't going to accept anything less. He's going to try to run it up as best he can because it's a home game. So I think that it probably gets ugly in the second half. You're going to see App State scare some folks in the first half. First and second quarter is probably going to be tight. You're going to see the quitter yelling at his quarterback for the second week in a row. Third and fourth quarter, whatever's said at the half is going to motivate them, and then they'll just have the horses and the manpower, and it'll be boat race by the end of it all. And then in his post-game press conference, the quitter will continue to say things negatively about his quarterback and about his team as he tries to chase perfection. So there you go.
I'm just wondering if Iowa's going to score a touchdown against Iowa State in the Cyhawk game.
I wouldn't bet on that.
Right now, wow. Started at 5.5, and depending on who you talk to, you can even get it down to 3.
That was the 5.5, the point total for Iowa? Or
They do, after all, lead the nation in safeties this year.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's true.
So it started at 5.5. Depending on who you talk to, you can get it down to 3 or as high as 6.5. So basically, they don't know. But yeah, 6.5.
How would you know?
But 6.5 is, I think, Marty, I think you're square. Yeah, I think you're right on. That'll be the total number of points. That's your over/under on total number of points for Iowa, 6.5.
How could you possibly get a read off of them after that first game, other than the fact that they can't play offense?
Yeah, and they're sticking with their starting quarterback.
Same as it ever was.
Yeah.
The other game that intrigues me too is Wake Forest and Vanderbilt.
Ooh.
They're both undefeated.
They're
Wake's
both
ranked.
Oh, smarty pants schools.
I mean, when's the last time we could say when the two black and golds got together that they were undefeated and one was ranked?
Wake is a 6-point favorite going into this one, and the fact that Vandy's actually settled on a quarterback, I think, is big for the Commodores.
It's the rising program in the SEC.
And watch out for the Commodores. They've already played 2 games this season, and they're averaging 50 points a game.
They played Hawaii and Elon. Calm down, sir.
So they played Hawaii and they played Elon Musk.
It was a very meta game last week. Exactly. Oh man, this Vandy.
I just want to say I know it sounds funny in reference to the Commodores. Gotta take an easy joke.
Yes.
It won't be that easy.
Just like Sunday morning, right, Marty?
Heard that in the car today. Just had to get that in there somehow.
Let's go ahead and throw it to break here, guys. When we come back for the last quarter of the show, we're going to go through a few news and notes for the week. All that and more when we return for the fourth quarter of the X. Right here on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
Hey, what's up? This is Darius Rucker. There are thousands of homeless veterans on the streets of our nation tonight. They're waiting for housing they are already approved for, but need the rental deposit to get into their home. Join VeteransMatter.org and help house 1,000 veterans as quickly as possible. Text VETS to 41444 and pledge any amount. Text VETS to 41444. They fought for us, now we fight for them. Veterans Matter.
Hey, we've made it to the fourth quarter, the final quarter. We wrap things up here on the show with a few news, notes, nuggets, and things left unsaid over the course of the past 45 minutes or an hour or something like that. Guys, we've talked about the week that was, the week that's coming, and the expansion of the college football playoffs. A few odds and ends from this week that just kind of were funny, at least, and things that stood out. One, imagine for a minute you're a new coach at Virginia Tech and your day starts with a delay coming out of the halftime break because your entire coaching staff gets caught in the elevator.
Imagine, if you will, something not out of sight but out of mind. Your coaches are stuck in an elevator. Welcome to the Twilight Zone.
And it gets worse. Because not only did that happen, the Hokies actually lost at Lane Stadium.
Lane Stadium. They lost at Old Dominion.
Yeah, that happened. And then, to cap things off, their locker room was ransacked by thieves.
Eric Kuma tweeted a reference to the theft shortly after midnight. School responded Sunday saying police were investigating the matter. This is from David Hale. The four-letter statement read, quote, Virginia Tech Athletic Department confirmed there were items missing from the Virginia Tech locker room following the football game against Old Dominion in Norfolk Friday night. The university is working with law enforcement and ODU on the matter and will have no further comment, end quote. They lost there in 2018, by the way. Remember that one? 49-35. And these two are scheduled to go in 24, 27, 29, and 31. I'm wondering if Virginia Tech's going to get out of this contract. We're tired of losing to ODU, man.
Do you think the guy that flipped the breaker on the elevator, then after he hit the breaker, went over to the locker room knowing those guys weren't coming back down?
Ooh, we might have solved the mystery.
Nice.
Oh, black helicopters from Marty. That's a good call. I did not put that together, but that's a hell of a call.
Is it worth it to get players from Eastern Virginia, where Frank Beamer used to cultivate all the talent from that area, when you're losing, when you actually show up in that part of the country? That's what Virginia Tech's got away. I mean, their recruiting focus has completely changed since Coach Beamer left, and that's where he got most of his great players was from that region. Mm-hmm. They've got to be seen there. And so it's a necessary evil.
Not seen losing.
But, the Virginia Tech team I saw against Old Dominion was very uninspired. And I think that's what Brent Pry's got to do when they play next week. I mean, he's got to inspire their players a little more. They've got to recover from that hole, but man, that's just a bad day. That's a bad, was it Friday or Thursday night is when they played. That was a bad Thursday night.
No good, very bad day. And by the way, the official ambassador for ODU football, did you see the official ambassador for ODU?
No.
Hudson, the golden retriever puppy. Hudson has his own Crocs on the field at ODU. So you had a golden retriever puppy wearing Crocs. Your official.
I like it.
Your golden retriever puppy Hudson from ODU had his own set of Crocs. So he was rocking his Crocs as ODU beat Virginia Tech again.
I was going to say it's got to be a NCAA violation of some kind, but they don't matter anymore.
No, they don't.
You can never go wrong with a golden retriever, ever.
Especially with Crocs.
Yes.
One last thing before we go, guys. I know it's early. I know we're only 1 week into the season, but would you believe that there's already a list of coaching hot seats.
Yeah. Of course there are. And it should start on the defensive side in Chapel Hill.
And yet it doesn't. It starts with a couple of coaches who we're pretty familiar with. One we talked about already in this show, and that would be Scott Frost.
True.
Tell me something new.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the frosty hot seat. Ugh,
Couldn't resist. Couldn't resist.
I couldn't.
What does it take for him to survive this season?
Frosty.
The triple option to
Winning.
come back.
Winning out.
Yeah. Frosty
That's
Weekly,
it.
Ski Wawa. Oh my God. That's
So
He
he's
might buy
basically
some
gotta
time
go
if they
11
beat
and 1.
Oklahoma.
Just find someone that reminds you of the past and go back to it, because you've gone to the future and you're in the present, and they're both bad places for you in Lincoln.
You won't. John probably is not going to be surprised by this one. The other hottest of seats right now, even just 1 week into the season, Auburn Tigers head coach Brian Harsin.
Harsin. Yeah. Harsin definitely.
Parsons project.
I thought you were going to make my week and say it was Mike Norvell.
No.
No.
Brian Harsin, yeah. I mean, Harsin is going to be on the perpetual hot seat. The athletic director who hired him, Alan Green, his contract is not going to be renewed. They're finally saying the things out loud that have been being said basically on campus for the last year. Brian Harsin, I think, came into the year as the number one contender in the SEC to be first dismissed. I think the Juicebox Purveyors had him at a minus 1,100, way ahead of everybody else on the board. So not a surprise.
Is there ever a time where there's not an Auburn coach who's on the hot seat?
Yeah, when it was Pat Dye.
Yeah, I was going to say Pat Dye.
Was his seat ever not hot?
Not that I can recall.
No, I don't think so. I think
Part of the job there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one out of all the schools in the country. That's the one school to me that you're just a 6-5 or a 5-6 record away from being fired one time.
Yeah, but that's the modern day. I mean, you're talking about Fortune 500 companies and boosters of same now. I mean, it's an entirely different vibe. But yeah, Brian Harsin, he's number one, top of the list, top of anybody's list, top of everybody's list. And that will not surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if they go, once again, they start out well because they've got San Jose State coming up this week. Then they've got Penn State after that. So they're probably 2-1. Then Missouri after that. And I think after their first 5 games, I think 6 of their next 7 are on the road. So whatever the hot start is going to be for Auburn, when they hit the road games, it's going to be. And you can go ahead and use that sound effect because that's what it's going to be.
And here's another one for you. Not a huge surprise. The CEO himself, Mr. Herm Edwards.
Yeah, especially if the investigations continue.
A bad recruiting class, mediocre performance on the field. Nothing special.
Auburn.
Yeah, their best running back transferred to Ohio State to be a linebacker.
And your final member of the hot seat quadruple
quartet
alliance here, Georgia Tech head coach Jeff Collins.
Yeah, that has not been a good marriage.
No, and that surprises me. I thought he would be a good fit there for that team. And
Well, he was saddled being the guy that had to follow Paul Johnson, and it's turned out to be a Herculean task because I think the reputation of Georgia Tech was among the high school kids and those who go to the big camps was kind of tainted because they were, if you're a wide receiver, why go there? If you're a quarterback, why go there? And it's taken a lot more to repair some of those damages from the Paul Johnson regime. They won with Paul, but it was just an antiquated offense that works better in FCS and D2 and D3.
Yeah, time caught up to that.
Right, and but Collins, we all have, John, Phil, and I, we've been around Georgia Tech. and we know the inner workings of that institution, and especially the athletic department. And I think that has something to do with it too. So I just think it was a tough job from the beginning, and it's just gotten to the point where it's just not working.
The only thing that Jeff Collins won was the press conference. He's lost everything since.
Yeah.
He's going to be the palate cleanser of coaches there.
Yeah.
He's going to be the bridge till they get somebody that's going to open it up completely.
And you figure out who would want that gig, and they're going to have to be signed to a guaranteed deal of at least 4 years to get to cycle everybody out and get who you want in there. And I don't know if the patience level is going to be there anymore for 4+ year deals because of everybody wanting results now. The irrationality of how things are in college lends itself to maybe 3 years and out. Just ask Tyrone Willingham. I think that was the first one that started this.
But unless you're a big budget school like a Georgia and Alabama or a Clemson or Ohio State, how do you do that?
Ego and hubris.
You can't turn it around like that without.
No, but ego and hubris won't keep you from thinking that you can't for like a triple negative in a sentence. It's always going to be that way.
Yeah, they'll have to clone Bobby Dodd. That's it.
I'm not sure even he could have success with that team unless they really, really all of a sudden step it up in recruiting and facilities.
Yeah, good luck on that in the ACC.
Well, guys, I think it's time to come to a wrap up here.
You got it.
Covered a bunch of ground. Gone through a whole long list of suspects.
You're not wrong, though. You're not wrong.
I know.
You're not wrong.
I know. But with my brain running out of cells in order to power through the show,
never had any.
We're going to stop talking here before we say something even stupider and getting ourselves in trouble.
We'll save that for next week.
So,
here you go.
For OSG Nelson, for OSG Wilkie, Brother Marty, and me, OSG Phil, we are the Online Sports Guys. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hopefully we will be back same time, same bat channel next week. Aloha.